the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission, to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkant's Movie Club. It's Elkant's Movie Club. Elkant's Movie Club. It's Elkant's Movie Club.
I know all the words by heart. It's one of those great songs, like an early Beatles song. You know all the words by heart?
Oh, yeah.
Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star. First time. Now, let's hope this works. Cross your fingers.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
For once, the technical issues might be on our side, not on Kent's. How you doing, Kent?
I'm here.
Yes!
Yes! Video!
Woohoo! Video!
It's back, folks.
Oh.
I think we Chewbacca drop at the end of the song.
Oh, God. Not you two.
Ken, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
First one. The real Star Wars.
Oh, the real Star Wars. I'm an Empire guy.
So the fourth one.
Stibs.
I'm just asking. I want to make sure.
Stibbs knows more about Star Wars than he leads on.
Yeah. Technically, the quote, but actually the first one. And I'm enough to put it in the theater. And it was astounding.
Which theater?
The first one was in Washington, D.C. and Northwest Washington, D.C. when I worked back there. And then I taught at Stewart in Atlanta.
I saw it at Indian Hills here in Omaha.
Wow, cool.
The big one. Indian Hills, basically
I
up
remember that
by
theater.
about where the Children's Hospital is
Like
now.
88th and Dodge-ish, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
I saw it, Kent. You remember they re-released those, the first three, in the 90s, and so I saw it in Fremont with probably my grandparents or my uncle or my parents or something like that.
The old Cinema 3.
Yep, that's where I saw it. So I saw it, and that was when they had like, oh, hey, it's Jabba the Hutt is randomly going to be in this, and look at all these computer graphics. They did all sorts of goofy stuff.
Yeah, that's the only way. Unfortunately, that's the only way you can see it now. You can't see the actual real one. The only ones that they let out are the ones with the extra stuff shoved in there.
Yeah.
Sad.
Well, speaking of science fiction, Moon science fiction.
Yes.
Now, this is 10 years old?
Oh, 9, I think.
11 years old. 11 years old. Sam Rockwell, right? Is the star. And, of course, for the most part, he's really the only actor in it, and live actor in it, because, he's playing basically a harvester on the moon. They've discovered some kind of technology on the moon that is, supposed to be the greatest energy of all time. And his job is to harvest whatever this is and then shoot it back to Earth. And he's there all by himself with what I like to call Kevin Spacey D2, because it's R2-D2 and Kevin Spacey combined. But Kevin Spacey plays the robot the voice of the robot that is his accompaniment.
And actually, that to me is much more like Hal from 2001 than R2.
For sure.
He has the same kind of creepy voice.
And I wonder if, knowing Spacey and his predilection for doing impressions, I wonder if that's what he was trying to do, was mimic Hal from 2001.
I'm sure it was, and if you look at the set itself, and go back and look at 2001, they obviously took from that as well. It resembles the ship very much from 2001. And I know that was intentional.
Yeah, and the thing I thought was interesting, Kent, because I'd never seen this. I'd heard about it, been on my to watch list for a long time, and so you understand. Okay, this guy's been up there for almost 3 years, so he's obviously going to be in a really weird headspace. And obviously, here's where we get to the spoiler conversation. So when another version of him shows up, I'm trying to figure out, is this a dream sequence? And then the other him mentions, hey, I'm a clone, or you're a clone, and so I'm like, okay, is there going to be an actual clone? Because he had like hallucinated early in the movie, and it makes me wonder now as we kind of get to the end, and you know what ends up happening, and you hear about them implanting memories. Was the woman that he saw very early something that they implanted in him, and they basically try to get all of these versions of the clones to go crazy so then they can eventually die and essentially replace themselves?
And that's a good question on that girl that he hallucinates. I don't know. I didn't ever quite understand what that why that scene was in there, other than to show that he was going a little crazy. Hello,
John? Yeah, I was hearing your interview, Ken, out of John's computer,
fine,
so I was a little confused. Ken, I don't know what you think about space movies in general, but I left this movie thinking that we need more space movies because I thought it reminded me at times of The Martian, like a darker version of The Martian. You guys just mentioned The Space Odyssey. I mean, you can talk about Star Wars, Interstellar from a few years ago. I don't know. I really like the claustrophobic nature of space movies.
these kind of movies. There are two kinds of sort of space movies, and then there's the one that I call Cowboys and Indians in Space, which is, you just basically take the old Western formula and put it into space. And that to me we don't need any more of those, but I love these kind of movies. And I thought this one was particularly good because the best science fiction is really about what's going on now. And in 2009, they're looking about corporate ethics, cloning, all of these issues that were going on then. Plus, then it seemed a little timely today because he'd been locked up there for 3 years and was going nuts.
Yeah, and then at the very, very end, when he returns home, there's kind of an audio montage as you see his craft going over the horizon. He's going to land. You hear that kind of this audio montage of what I guess would be pundits and news people with their takes, and someone making some kind of a crack about him being an illegal immigrant or something.
Yeah.
So they kind of just to give you an idea that even though we're in the future at some point, there's still the same dysfunctions that we have today. And I know it was at the very end of the film, but it kind of just it kind of pulls you back to modern Earth in a way.
And that's the idea. That's the exact point. And they did a follow-up. Duncan Jones did another movie called Mute, which I have not seen. That is the sequel to this. And Rockwell only apparently makes a cameo in it. But I don't know what the point of that movie was. And I did want to mention two things. Duncan Jones, this was his first movie directorial thing. He happens to be David Bowie's son.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's directed by Bowie's son. And if you noticed on the producing credits, Trudy Styler is one of the producers. Y'all know who she is? That's Sting. Sting's wife. Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
So there's definitely, there's some, classic rock. Yeah, there's some classic rock influence in this, or at least in terms of the relationships.
And in terms of the money, I'm sure they paid for it.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing I was going to ask, Kent, was because when Josh recommended this film, I didn't recall it being out there when it was released originally in 2009. It wasn't a wide release.
It was. Well, it's Sony Pictures Classics, so it played places like the Ross here and Film Streams in Omaha. It wasn't a 10,000 theater release or anything. It did fairly well at the box office here, and it did great in England. It's an English movie, and it did great in England and actually won 2 or 3 BAFTAs, which is the English equivalent of the Academy Award. It's the British Academy of Arts and Television. British Academy of Film and Television Arts. That's what it stands for. So,
what do you think of it, Kent, as like a movie? Because I thought the back half was better than the first half, especially once you kind of really start figuring out what's going on. I thought it got funnier too. Like when they first started having the conversation, and he's like listening to the music, and he's trying to work on his stuff. There was a couple of moments where I laughed out loud
when he was like trying to dance in front of him and get him in a better mood.
Yeah.
There were a couple other moments when he asked him if he was comfortable when he tried to put the initial clone in.
Yeah,
and there was just like 4 seconds of silence. And, no,
I really like the movie. It's weird watching it the second time in a way because you know exactly, what's going to happen. So you don't have that what's going on thing that hits when the clone shows up or when he starts hallucinating because you know where the movie's going. So it maybe doesn't work quite as well the second time. But I really liked it the first time it came out, and I thought it was good this time. And Sam Rockwell's great in it. I mean, he's basically asked to play every. He goes from, an action guy to, this guy that's dying to confused, trying to figure out what's going on, depending on which one of these people that he's playing. I thought it's really good.
If there was one thing I had from a plot standpoint that was a little off to me was, because when he realizes that something weird is going on and he wants to get outside the base and tries to, mock up that there was some kind of damage.
When he punctures the hole?
When he punctures the hole and tries to, mock up that something was wrong. And he basically talks Kevin Spacey into opening the airlock that, because Kevin Spacey is under orders not to open anything. Well, he relents, but then why does he continue to let them go in and out as they please? Only thing I had a problem with because
my take on it was that he had the thought that he had to take care of, make sure that his job was to take care of Sam Rockwell meant that he had to let him do what he wanted to do eventually. But I agree with that.
It was kind of a ticky-tack, complaint.
Well, the other thing that got to me was you would think that after 3 years, you wouldn't buy the same ruse that the communication system had broken down.
Sure.
That
could never be fixed.
That you're really asking to, and you got to suspend disbelief in movies. But that was the one that was like, okay, it took you 3 years to fix this?
Especially in a movie that's kind of, I think, they never really say it, but is obviously in at least the somewhat near future.
Yeah.
Considering they're cloning people and using energy from the dark side of the moon, that they could do all of this stuff, but they couldn't figure out quick communications between him and base.
But we have those same problems today.
That's true. Kent's phone sucks all the time.
Well, I was going to say we have these great devices called smartphones that work great in every other function except as a phone.
All right, put the soapbox away.
It's true. We'll figure that out.
And this is a really nerdy conversation, Kent. I don't know how many episodes or if you've ever watched Black Mirror, but there's this one episode in particular where essentially they harvest somebody, like their memory, and then this person ends up essentially being like a slave, like a virtual slave to do everything around the house for somebody. And I thought near the end of the movie, if we ever get to a point of cloning and somebody clones me and they implant my memories inside of that person and then they have to do something for the rest of their life, that is, there's some clone rights that essentially would have to be talked about. And towards the end of this movie, I'm like, wow, that would be a really fascinating discussion, though probably not in America in 2020.
Probably not in America in 2020, but I think that's part of the issue that this movie raised, right? What is your identity? Where does it come from? How, it doesn't get passed on if you're somehow duplicated. And, that's serious science fiction there, as opposed to entertainment science fiction where they're all shooting each other,
Yeah, I would agree. Overall, it was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I agree with Kent. I think there are some things that we can do with the future, with space, that doesn't have to fit the same cowboys fighting natives type situation like Star Wars, where it's got to be some kind of conflict in space, but just something that is set in space. that
like the Thinking Man space movie,
Yeah.
I guess is how it would describe it.
Yeah, because that's what 2001 was.
The Martian is like that.
That this was like a grimier version of a lot of like those kind of movies. You know, it was a dirty. I mean, I loved that like the spacesuit was always dirty. It was always grimy,
Right.
and I kind of like that about it. That it wasn't so shiny. Like, I mean, even Space Odyssey is a very, you know, everything's very clean.
Very clean.
Yeah. They
Very
took it out. They
clean.
cleaned it off.
They cleaned it off.
Yeah.
You know, I it's critically acclaimed, but I, Robot with Will Smith was kind of in that. It was a crime movie, but set in the future.
Yeah.
Set in space, sort of.
So that was
Moon.
Your
All right.
turn.
Now, I hesitate to go to the same genre twice, but it will be new to all of us. But starting this week on Netflix.
Oh, you're going to go with a TV show?
Well, no, but Steve Carell's.
That's a TV show.
I thought it was a movie.
Yeah, it's a TV show.
It's a series.
I thought it was a Oh, that ruined it for me. I thought it was a movie.
Yeah, it's a TV show.
Oh, never mind then.
You got anything else?
Well, let's see.
Or
Have you heard of this movie called Teeth?
Or do we need to go to Stibbs? Do you need to skip ahead to Stibbs?
No, I've got.
I hope not. I'm not prepared.
I've got a whole bunch here that I could choose from. Let's try, because I've kind of gone. Okay, here's one I've never seen, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Netflix?
And Josh, double check for me to make sure it's still there, because I did this list about 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
Mystic River.
I'm pretty sure that is on there.
I just saw it. It's
Wow.
It is there. Okay.
And John, I am ashamed I have not seen either. I've started that movie like 2 or 3 times, and I haven't gotten very far, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And either something came up and I had to leave, or I felt like I wasn't, because it starts off with a crazy scene. Like, it's emotional right off the bat. And I'd started a couple times to be like, I don't think I'm emotionally prepared to watch this type of movie, and have just never gotten around to seeing it. I'm stoked. Good pick, John.
Ken, you said wow.
Yeah, it's really good. You guys are picking really good movies here. not making me rewatch a piece of crap every week.
I've seen it. It's been a long time. It's been years. I mean,
I have not
early
seen
high
it.
school.
I have not seen it. So,
Awesome.
and that's why, again, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this was to try to see some different things. And I wanted to challenge myself, too, in some of the movies that I picked. I'm sorry, Kent. It's another week where I don't pick Maximum Overdrive, but eventually that's coming.
No,
I know that is. I still remember the day because it was in the press box at Memorial Stadium. I don't remember which crappy game it was in front of, but I just, Kent and I were in the press box just chit chatting. I think
chit-chat show.
I think Babcock was there. And I said, Kent, what's the worst movie you ever saw? And he said Maximum Overdrive, and I almost picked him up and threw him out the window. It's one of my favorite dumb movies of all time.
Maybe
that movie. Well, if you see it, watch the drawbridge scene, and you can tell they're like Matchbox cars. That's how.
I know. It's just a terribly cheesy bad
That is a
movie.
good idea, though, John.
We should do
1 month.
Yes, one selection
once
of picks.
per week, where we pick the worst movie we think we've seen.
Oh,
and
that
we
would
all
be-
have to watch it and
that
talk
would be
about it.
Stibbs, you've already been doing this.
Oh, got him. All right, I like that idea. That'd be fun.
I know mine.
All right, well, we'll
Days of Thunder?
Once we get into
Star Wars: A New Hope.
Once we get into month 17 of this quarantine, well, that's probably when we'll do it. Well, Kent, we appreciate it. Thanks for joining us in the stream and helping us figure out that this technology still works even when we're in studio.
That's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Well, Kent, have an awesome weekend. Oh, by the way, before we let you go,
the
NBA announced today that they've got a date. They don't have a plan, but they have a date, July 31st.
Fine with me. Hopefully don't you assume they're just going to play in Orlando?
That's my guess, yeah.
Isn't that the sort of consensus? Is that's what they'll do, is playing all the games in Orlando?
Yeah, I think the relationship with Disney and the fact that they own ESPN and the ABC partnership, it's just like a match made in heaven for everyone involved.
And apparently there's facilities on top of facilities there also.
Yeah,
So
it's basically a giant campus that they could almost, utilize.
Well,
Just like take over the wide world of
there
sports
aren't
area.
other places where you could play 4 games in one day or whatever.
Now, of course, the catch for Kent will be, as he's watching the Nebraska-Cincinnati game, he'll be torn with like a game 5 of an Eastern Conference Finals or something like that.
I won't warn very hard.
But Kent, what if it's a good football game?
Yeah.
If it's Bucks versus Sixers for a trip to the finals, we know what Ken will be watching.
Well, Kent, we appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and thanks again for joining us in the movie club.
Sounds great. See you next week.
All right,
thank you,
there
Kent.
it is, Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star. I'm glad that worked. That worked fairly well. I think
we figured out. I think Stibbs figured out what was going on with the audio.
It's weird because that wasn't happening when we were doing this every day, but
Very strange.
it was trying to mute him
Via
for those first couple because I was sending him back to himself in order to record it for our wonderful radio replays.
Nice.
So I was just muting in between each question, and I think I did okay.
Yeah, it sounded great
because it sounds fun on the radio, which is good.
That's the most important thing.
Well, that's the most important thing, but don't forget.
People forget we're on the radio.
Don't
no matter where
forget,
you're listening.
like right now, if you happen to be watching in the stream, you're still listening to the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? The only thing that matters is that we have Brian's approval.
And
once again, Brian said, very solid.
Thank you, Brian.
We appreciate it.
Next week, we'll try to be better than solid for you, but we appreciate it nonetheless.
And figuring that this worked, we'll probably try it with Baz in an hour.
I think we will.
I think we'll try it with Baz in an hour. As you can see, we are inside the... Oh, see, I got myself turned around again.
Yeah.
We're in the Zone Studios.
In the
See,
Zone
Josh,
Studios.
look, Josh has a picture of Memorial Stadium in the background.
Yeah.
I have a picture of Memorial Stadium in the background.
We should put a Blue Jay behind Stibbs. Okay, never mind. Do we have any?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few Blue Jay fans in these
Corver,
pictures.
McDermott, yeah.
We should get like fake bookcases behind us. You know, like all the people on TV do.
yeah.
Screen so
Things.
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mel Kiper, his weird green screen office.
By the way, if someone could get Tompkins on the line and ask if I framed the zone, I think I framed myself okay.
Are you're at arm's length?
Yeah, and the zone is in the perfect
Your
corner.
rule of thirds looks pretty good.
Yeah, rule of thirds is really solid there, John.
I think you know what you're doing.
Thank you.
Who'd have thought?
The lighting's not as good.
The lighting could
I thought
be better.
about turning on these lights above me.
I'm going to
But
turn
they-
them on for a second to see if it changes.
I don't think it does because these lights are pretty weak. We'll see.
It made it worse, actually.
Yeah, too
Because
much.
it reflected off of the sign, off of the zone
Right.
sign.
Yeah, it made
See,
it
you
brighter
get-
behind you.
You get the whole triangulation effect.
Yeah, see, jeez. I thought he was paying
Pyramids,
attention.
prisms.
I thought Stibbs was paying attention.
You know why he wasn't paying attention? Because he kept reciting Star Wars lines. He kept listening to Tompkins.
Oh, this moment reminds me of that time that Jabba the Hutt did a big thing and Boba Fett had a gun.
Look at it. Return of the Jedi. Nailed it again.
He is nailing these movies.
Nailed it again.
Maybe we
Stibbs.
should do this.
incredible.
We're not really doing movie reviews now because we have this movie club. Maybe I just review Star Wars movies without actually watching them.
Well, we know that's not true. It's obvious you've seen them because you are reciting them psalm and verse.
You're pretty much nailing the plot, Stibbs.
Yes.
It's pretty incredible.
Dialogue is right there. I
dialogue's
Boba Fett.
perfect.
I have gun.
Now that's not true. Boba Fett didn't really talk. So.
Oh, that's right. How could
Yeah.
I forget?
Yeah, well,
He said a couple of words in
Did he talk in this
Empire.
new show?
yeah, well, that's not Boba Fett, but yes, the Mandalorian did talk in the Mandalorian.
Oh, it's just a Boba Fett.
Yeah,
clone?
Mandalorians can talk.
Yeah, they can talk.
Well,
So-
Boba Fett's a clone because he's the son of a
he's
clone.
like, it's like Moon.
Holy moly.
But you already knew that.
Yeah, as you just told us about the plot
When
points.
do the little munchkins come in?
In the same one.
Whoa, stay woke. The little munchkins?
What
Well,
are they called?
you have the Jawas in the original, and you have the
Ewoks. You talking about
That's
Ewoks?
what I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
they're in Return of the Jedi, of course, as you already knew. Look at you pretending
Which
not
is
to know.
number 6.
Number 6. Nailed it again. Stibbs, Star Wars guy. Underneath the polo he's wearing today, friends, he's got a Star Wars shirt on.
Yeah, he does. Mm-hmm. He does. All right. We got a lot coming up because bottom of the hour, it's Pierre.
Pierre.
3:45, John Frankel of HBO Real Sports. 4:15, Chris Basnett.
Dang.
Boom,
We haven't
boom,
done that in a
boom.
while where
Yeah.
it was guest. It's like the old days.
Yep. Back with more in a minute on Severe and Betting on 16. Just kidding, Michael. I'm just kidding. 1620 The Zone.